Over the years, as a certified addiction recovery coach who specializes in helping people quit nicotine and cannabis products, I've noticed a few common trends among people who struggle with nicotine and cannabis substance use disorders. And in today's video, what I want to do is shed some light on those commonalities among people trying to quit in order to make your quitting process significantly easier compared to as if you had not watched today's video. Now, real quick, if you're new to the channel and you're a high performance individual or a high level professional, my name's Dr. Frank, and we have a science-backed method that has a 98% success rate at helping people quit nicotine and cannabis in as little as 48 hours, privately, without disrupting their public life, image, and without relapse. You can learn about that with the link in the video description. Trend number one that I've noticed is in many cases, people don't have an addiction problem. To be entirely honest, they go into this thinking they have some lifelong disease, that they have some permanent problem, and no matter how hard they work at it, it's never going to get any better. It's never going to fix. And that simply isn't true. Most people that I've spoke with typically have a discipline problem, a commitment problem, a confidence problem, a systems and operations problem. They have a coping skill problem. They have a self-care and a lifestyle environment problem. But the thing that they don't actually have is an addiction problem, a substance use disorder problem. Despite the fact that they might have a physical dependence to cannabis or alcohol or some other substance, they don't in fact have an addiction problem. This in and of itself is an issue because if you don't fully understand the problems that you're facing, you might be spending all of your time trying to come up with a solution to a problem that quite frankly doesn't exist. I can't tell you how many hundreds of times I've seen this over the years working with people struggling with a substance use disorder. I know for myself, my outlook on my own journey of quitting nicotine, cannabis, stimulants, pornography, and binge drinking became much, much better. I had a much more positive outlook once I decided that I didn't have an addiction problem, that it was a commitment problem, a discipline problem, a decision-making problem. Once I determined that, I actually became significantly more hopeful because those problems are often, in many cases, easy to resolve once you have correctly identified them and put in systems to correct them. So that's the first thing that I've noticed with people. They don't have an addiction problem. It's something else that's being overlooked or neglected because everyone, themselves included, is so focused on the substance use, the addiction, the weed, the cannabis, the nicotine, the alcohol, when really, sometimes that's not where we have to start. I was recently working with a medical professional. Not only did they have a polysubstance use disorder where they were using stimulants, cannabis, some prescription things, stuff like that, but they also had major problems with regard to their lifestyle, their nutrition, their physical fitness, their relationship with their significant other. There was other challenges that they were facing. And when this individual had met me, they were so gung-ho, so focused in on let's quit the substances, I gotta get off all these drugs and everything else is gonna fix itself. I was like, okay, wait a second. Let's start with getting you off the substances that are causing blatant negatives in your life. Let's start there. But then let's take some time. Let's work on the lifestyle. Let's make other improvements. Let's get some momentum. Let's build your confidence. And then let's attack the lesser harmful substances that you're dealing with. Identifying the correct problems and figuring out in which order to direct them can make the quitting process significantly easier. Another common thing that I've heard from people who are quitting substances or that I've identified is that after they quit, they come to realize just how much mental clarity they were lacking. And because they were lacking mental clarity, they were also lacking confidence in their ability to make rational decisions. I've seen this time and time again where people will be on the verge of making a big decision about their career, about their business, about their finances, about their relationships, about where they physically live, right? Maybe moving homes. And they'll come into these calls and they'll be ready to make this big decision. And I'll say, wait a second. Whether you make this decision and it works out good or bad, we want to make sure that you're not under the influence of cannabis or alcohol or stimulants or whatever the substance use disorder may be, because once you make this decision it's going to have lasting effects. And the last thing I want a person to do is to make a decision and then regret the decision that they made because they're saying to themselves, well, was I clear-headed? Did I make the best decision? Was I thinking correctly? We had a gentleman recently who we were working with who owns a very large real estate portfolio, and they were going through the sales of some of their real estate properties and things like that. And they were saying, it's crazy that I've quit. I put a little WhatsApp chat right here from them, and I feel so much more confident being clear-headed going into these negotiations. And I hear it time and time again from people. They say to me after they've stopped the use of the drug, I can't believe how much more confident I am in the day-to-day decisions that I'm making for my business, for my family, for my physical health, for my mental health. That mental clarity that's lacking is an incredible thing once it's reclaimed. Another commonality that I've noticed among people who quit cannabis, nicotine products, alcohol, and other substances is a disappearance of unexplained mental health and physical health symptoms. I was very much this way in my own addiction journey, right? I have a doctorate in chiropractic. I was a personal trainer, certified in functional medicine, and I was really into health. Like, I ate really good. I worked out a lot up until a point where cannabis addiction robbed my ability from me to exercise because I developed a condition called Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome and acute psychosis. But up until that point, I was really into stuff like, oh, I wouldn't want to drink that drink because it has aspartame in it, or I wouldn't want to do that thing because I was really worried about my health. It's so ironic because I was suffering from so many undiagnosed, unexplained mental health and physical health problems. I would go see all these different doctors, wasting time on different copays, this and that, and I couldn't get down to the root cause of it. No one could. And the reason is because the root cause was my abuse of nicotine, stimulants, cannabis, binge drinking, and quite frankly, adult media content even played a role in my declining physical health as well. So in quitting, many of these unexplained health problems just started to resolve. It's time and time again when I'm having conversations with people and they'll say, it's interesting, Dr. Frank, I didn't really mention it, but I had this stomach issue, or I had this, doom and gloom anxiety and depression that just we couldn't seem to get under control. I've tried therapy, I've tried medications, I've tried support groups, nothing seemed to be working. But now that I've quit cannabis, now that I'm not vaping all day anymore, that health issue, my stomach seems to be feeling better. My skin is looking clearer. My hair looks better, right? That doom and gloom feeling of pending anxiety and depression is starting to ease up a little bit. I've heard this so many times from people, and it's so sad to me because I'll have people call me and they're like, I really think something's wrong with me. I'm just horribly stuck in this cycle of self-sabotage. Or, I really think I'm bipolar, or this or that is going on with me. And don't get me wrong, in some instances, people are, and they were maybe self-medicating for a bigger issue that was, covered up. But in many instances, it's like, no, you're ignoring the elephant in the room. People will address everything in some cases before they actually address the substance use itself. They'll do the marriage counseling. They'll change their diet. They'll change their fitness routines. They'll try and sleep better. They'll download a bunch of self-improvement apps and self-help books, and nothing seems to work because they didn't address the one thing that actually needed to change, which was the substance use. For so many people, it's the elephant in the room. I give the example. It's like buying a really high-end fitness scale that measures, body fat percentage, bone density, water weight. But then it's like buying that scale and going home and eating cake every night for dinner. You're ignoring the bigger problem and you're focused on the wrong stuff. And it's amazing how many things I see just go to the wayside when people suddenly make that commitment, that singular decision to stop consuming cannabis, nicotine, or other harmful substances. Another trait that I've noticed among people who have successfully quit cannabis, nicotine, and other drugs is they are no longer operating out of fear. A lot of times when people go into quitting, they have this fear of what is the withdrawals going to be like? Is my life actually going to change? Is my life actually going to improve or be any better without the substance? And then they have a fear on the flip side of it of, well, what happens if I quit and I start to get withdrawals? What if I quit and I don't have any joy again? So there's a lot of fear that prevents people from quitting, and people get stuck living in a constant state of fear. And time again, people have told me personally. They've emailed me, they've messaged me, they've told me time and time again, I can't believe what it's like to live life not in a constant state of fear. Fear of what happens if I quit, or fear of what happens if what happens if I don't quit? What happens if I continue to do the same thing day in and day out that I'm currently doing? What's my life going to look like with another 7, 8, 9, 10 years of the current path that I'm on? It's an exhausting way to live. And I can't tell you, so many times people will stop using the substance and they eventually come to the conclusion, if we do it correctly, we have the right plan in place, we have the right expectations in place, they do it correctly and they say, wow, my life is significantly better. My physical health, my mental health, my relationships, my finances, my work performance, literally everything can improve if you do this correctly. And then what's that do? Once they start seeing those positive results, that fear starts to dissipate once you start to get that positive momentum. No pun intended, but the grass really is greener on the other side for a majority of individuals. Now, the next common thing that I see among people struggling to quit cannabis and nicotine is they feel that they lack the tools to do it themselves, but they have the tools that they need to stop. They already have proven discipline. They've proven grit. They've proven tenacity. They've proven determination. They have a lot of the really positive character traits that you need to get sober. They've simply been applying those tools and those character traits to maintaining an addiction instead of building the life, the relationships, the wealth, the career that they want to have. But so many people, and maybe you're one of them watching this, if you are, please hear me on this, have the traits that they need to succeed. They have just lost the ability to use them correctly. And simply having someone to remind you of how to do that can go a really, really, really long way. And sobriety is also an opportunity to strengthen those character traits and then reapply them to other aspects of your life that you're trying to improve. I just got off a call prior to filming this video, and someone was asking me, they were saying, Dr. Frank, I've done this program, I've done that, I've read books, I've done a million things, and, what's going to work for me? I have all these tools. What's going to work for me to get me sober? And I said to them, you are the tool. You are the success. It's you. And somewhere in here, you've started putting your faith in all these other things outside of yourself, outside of the inherent traits that you have. And all these other things have failed you because you have failed to acknowledge that you are the tool. You are the key to success. And that's something that we reinstill in people inside of our addiction exit protocol. Now, as I said earlier, look, if you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, you're a C-suite executive, maybe you're a physician, an attorney, you work in real estate, we have a science-backed method that has a 98% success rate at helping people quit nicotine and cannabis in as little as 48 hours. No group meetings, no AA, no lifelong commitment, and having to admit you're a powerless addict, okay? If that appeals to you and you're someone who likes taking action and you're sick of this, check out that link in the video description. I also put it in the pinned comment to learn more. Your experience, your expectations, and your outcomes are going to be unique to you. So a lot of times when I'm working with people, they'll be comparing their experience, their expectations, and their outcomes to other people. They might be watching YouTube videos or looking at, Reddit forums or talking to their friend in some recovery group that they joined. This is so dangerous because what winds up happening is we take a unique experience, unique expectations, and unique outcomes, and we subconsciously wind up making it about everyone else except for ourselves. And just recognizing that this is about you. We're not worried about everyone else and what they're going through because your experience, your expectations, and your outcomes are unique to you. Your lifestyle, your environment, your health complications, your mental health, your physical health, your other comorbid factors are unique to you. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with people and they've said, this really did feel like a unique solution to my exact situation because I know that's what worked for me and that's what I've seen work for hundreds, if not thousands of other individuals. So if that's you, don't get tied up in other people's experiences. Worry about yourself. Worry about what you are or you are not experiencing. Make sure you have proper expectations set and make sure you have realistic outcomes that you're looking to achieve. Don't base those things on other people's experiences, or it might screw you up along the way. Now, one thing that I've noticed all of these people have in common when they first quit, or that I've heard mentioned to me literally hundreds, if not thousands of times, is dealing with boredom. I've quit nicotine and I'm bored. I've quit drinking, I'm bored. I quit smoking weed and I'm bored. So I made a video. If that's something that you've struggled with in the past and has caused you to relapse, aka consciously choose to going back to using the substance, I put a video right in the corner here that talks a little bit about boredom, and it gives you some refrains and some shifts in mindset to cope with that. All right, I'll talk to you guys again soon in that next video.